Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Hello. This is Musa Badminton Jr. broadcasting from Nairobi, Kenya. I've come up with my formula. I've come up with my formula. All right. If you have been following me, you know that I had indicated to my listening audience that I was working on a formula to save mankind in lieu of the threat of a nuclear war. I've come up with the formula. I have come up with the formula. And at least I'll try with my next video. I'll reveal the formula to my audience, my viewing audience. Yes, I have come up with the formula to save mankind in lieu of the nuclear war. Now, we know if you've been following me, you know that I have accepted the idea that mankind that we are destined for a nuclear war, and since we have the knowledge of that possibility, I have studied the situation and I have come up with a plan for survival of the human race when this catastrophe occurs. If you notice, I didn't say when, I didn't say if, I said when this catastrophe occurs. I am thoroughly convinced that because of the nature of man, that someone, some nation, some power will use that nuclear weapon. But here I have a solution. This solution is for the salvation of mankind. Salvation, or could we say the preservation of mankind. Okay, here's the plan. Okay, we got two nations at war. We have two nations at war, and one or both of them will have a nuclear weapon. But what is interesting, two nations, and both nations have a nuclear bomb. Those are the most hesitant to go to war with each other. It's quite ironic. Okay, we got the war going on in Ukraine. Russia has the atomic bombs. I mean, the atomic bombs and nuclear bombs, but it has the bombs of mass destruction. Ukraine does not have the bombs of mass destruction. Mass destruction. Oh, but we already know the outcome. Russia's going to run all over Ukraine. They're going to kill the people and take the land back, and Ukraine is going to be are defeated and Ukraine is going to be part of Russia. Now, will the U.S. intervene? No, not really, not really. Because what happens is, if the U.S. totally intervenes in this war, now you got two countries who are at war, and both countries have the nuclear weapon. How do we save mankind when we know that these are men, not gods or angels, but these are men in control of such of weapons of mass destruction? And we know, if we study history, we know the capabilities of mankind. So Ukraine, okay, the Ukraine and Russia, well, Russia would defeat Ukraine. And the United States and its allies will bark like barking dogs. But the minute, the second, that the U.S. and its allies enter that war that's going on between Ukraine and Russia, now we have nuclear countries with nuclear weapons. Both countries have nuclear weapons. How is the international community going to deal with that? Here's my plan, which I give to the international community. Whichever country who uses the nuclear weapon, see, if there is a nuclear war between two nations, the whole earth is in trouble. So the first country that uses a nuclear weapon, all all the other countries with nuclear weapons must send nuclear bombs to the offender. If Russia uses a nuclear weapon first, then Russia is a receiver of nuclear weapons from all of the nuclear powers. Let the nations who have possession of the nuclear weapons, let them make a pact. And let this pact say that the first country that uses a nuclear weapon against another country, that country becomes the victim of nuclear weapons coming from all of the nuclear powers. So if the US is the first country to use a nuclear weapon, then that means that all of the other countries in the world focus on the US and send bombs to the US. If England is the first country that uses a nuclear weapon on another country, then all of the other countries who have nuclear weapons must submit their nuclear weapons to England. So what does that mean? That means that many people will die, but many people will be saved. War, 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 war. War is consistent with civilization. War is consistent with mankind. There's always been war. And there have always been casualties of war. So let the nuclear nations, those who have the nuclear bombs, say the first country that uses a nuclear weapon against another country, that all countries who have the nuclear weapon will submit nuclear weapons to the first offender. Therefore, the first offender, that offending country, is destroyed. There are many casualties in the war. But let's talk about the preservation of mankind. Okay, you have the Sodomites who basically ruling the world. And what happens with the Sodomites is this: they're thinking more about their asses than they're thinking about their heads. And this is why the world is in such disruption. So, to preserve mankind, the first nation that uses a nuclear weapon against another nation, then all nations who have nuclear weapons will fire their weapons at the initiator. Therefore, instead of the world being contaminated, the country that allowed a nuclear weapon to leave its lands to land in another land, only that country will suffer the greatest casualties. Now, I come up with the formula. I've come up with the concept. I come up with the theory, the idea to save humanity in spite of humanity's attitude to self. Now, with this plan, what is it saying to the world? It is saying to the world that there is no nation on earth that can destroy humanity. The nation who sends the first atomic bomb or nuclear weapon to another country in war, then all of the owners, all countries who own nuclear weapons would send a nuclear bomb to the offender. This would dissuade a country from making that effort. And if that country is insane enough to perpetrate a nuclear war, then the rest of the countries must tame that country. Which means that if Russia sends a nuclear weapon to New York, that's only one city. But I'm sure if they made an attack on the U.S., I'm sure that it would be strategic. But if the bomb comes from Russia and it goes to the U.S., then all nations who have a nuclear bomb retaliate, not necessarily for the U.S., but for mankind. Now, that would dissuade Russia from sending a bomb to U.S. That would dissuade U.S. from the Senator from Senator Bond to Russia. Now I'm working up now. I have uh, the dynamics for my formula, but that's only part of this rescue formula that I'm working on. There's another angle to this formula. This is Musa Badminton Jr. signing off in Nairobi, Kenya.